You are one of us. Your passion is the world of mountain biking, from enduro to gravel races and everything in between. This is Insider MTB, the podcast that takes you behind the handlebars, into the dirt, and behind the scenes of the mountain biking world. And now your host, Austin White.
What's going on, everyone? Episode 22. Yeah, it's been a while, everyone. I took a little bit of a break, just been so busy. My kids have now gotten... I do apologize for not doing as many podcasts in this last couple months, but I have kids now that are like doing more than needing just bottles and free milk. So now we got karate, we got softball, we got soccer, we got bicycles, we got anything you can do. So my free time has been a little bit less lately. Vernon, my guest here today, knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh God, yeah. I was a single stay-at-home dad with a couple kids while I was a editor. So yeah. I know that.
But yeah, I do apologize for that, you guys. But yeah, this is our first kickback podcast. So, but there will be a lot more coming now, and I do have a little bit less, or I have a little bit more free time just because a couple of things. The summer's kind of ending. As a lot of you guys know, I help out with Big Mountain Enduro and helping reshape a lot of U.S. enduro racing for mountain bikes. And yeah, I'm having a little bit more free time. I am joined today by Vernon Felton of Canyon Bikes. His title is way too long because it's changed multiple times. So I'm just going to say guru of PR and marketing, maybe over there is the best. Is that a great title for you, Vernon?
Well, I think you've smashed three other people's titles into my title, which is...
Well, you've done those before there.
Yeah, I've certainly done those. I'm the director of product marketing. So if it's about bikes and gear and it's about telling that story, then that's what I do. Yeah.
Wait, what is this, 5th year there?
Yeah, 5 going on 6 or
going on 6. So, but
yeah, I think 5 going to 6 or 6 going on 7. Dude, time flies.
It's between 6 and 9. 6 and 9.
It goes by way too quick. Yeah.
But you maybe list off the titles that you've had at this, because you've done so much at this brand, I feel like.
Okay, well, they hired me initially to be the director of U.S. product. So, as people may know, Canyon is a longstanding brand in Germany, but only came to the States roughly about 8-9 years ago. And I was hired. I was working at Specialized prior to Canyon, doing the mountain bike marketing for them. And Canyon was looking for someone who had a background as a test editor, someone who might have been really hard on product at brands, and they wanted to ensure that they had that kind of voice, because Roman Arnold, the owner and founder of Canyon, he realized that his bikes were maybe a little Germanic, a little Euro, the mountain bikes for the North American market. So they're looking for someone that could really sit down and go like, this is the right fork spec, this is the right tire spec, this is the geometry you need to be successful, because his goal is to not be a European brand, but to be a global brand. So they wanted to bring someone in that could work with the product teams, to bring a little bit more of a North American perspective, and as well as to do the sort of determine what bikes the U.S. would carry, and all the really boring Microsoft Excel stuff, like the quantities and stuff that none of your readers want to hear about. But so yeah, I did that, and then I did a little bit of their marketing, mainly press kits, not a lot of stuff that the public would see, mainly stuff that journalists would see. And I would say, the last few years of my life have been, the cool things are being able to have a little bit of a hand and to be able to shout in rooms about what the bikes need to be, how they need to ride, what they need to look like, what they need to be wearing. That's the best part of the job for sure. And then there's all that boring crap of talking to factories and dealing with customs and tariffs and all that mess. And now I'm kind of back in the, nouns and adjectives and verbs end of things, where I still get to say, hey, what about this in terms of bike design, and be a voice in the room with the other product guys. But really my job now is to be like the ad agency for the product guys. Because, product guys, they just, they want to make something cool, but they're generally not in the business of shouting about it. But I shout, dude. That's what I do. So my job is to shout and just shout, the truth about the product. So there you have it. Shouter.
So
That's my title, dude. Shouter.
Shouter.
Yeah.
Do you have a business card with that? Can I get that business card?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, perfect. Yeah, Shouter. Yep. So we're here today with Shouter from Canyon,
Thanks.
and before we get deeper into it, I got a question for you. Are you a Maxima Racing Oils type of guy? Are you SC1? Use any of the products?
Well, I mean, again, like if you get some high end Rock Shocks and Fox stuff, it's kind of unavoidable, right? Like it's the good stuff that's why it's a bullet point. On some of the better products, right?
Yeah. So what is up with you and selling used bikes? Do you just SC1 them before the guy gets there from Craigslist? What are you?
Dude, I never
chain lube it up?
I almost never sell bikes. I'm like the friggin' who's that? What was the guy again? Oh man, I'm like that guy. Well, I am a hoarder. You seen those hoarder programs? A lady with dead cats and like cans of pork and beans. I've got like my first mountain bike from 1988. I got the first I've got pretty much every mountain bike I've ever owned. I'm not proud. I'm not bragging. Like it's a condition.
It's a condition.
Yeah.
Do you ride them? No.
Well, of course not, dude. There's way too many of them. But every year I would be like, when I was an editor, I'd be like, well, this year I'm going to get out of the game and I'm going to get a good deal on this bike and I'll buy it. It'll be on my last mountain bike. It's just like any other smack addict, right? It's just one more shot, chase the dragon one more time and I'm done with this for good. And that's how I am with bikes. And I'm still that dumb, man. I still keep buying them. I'm buying them from Canyon, left and right, man. I'm like the biggest customer, Jesus.
But if you did sell your used bikes, SC1 all the way, as a Maxima product for sure. And it smells great. I bet your garage is just filled with that, or contact cleaner. You're in the woods getting a little high. I get it. Getting the chainsaw running.
Well, if you and I do have a lot of chainsaws, and I do live in the woods. That's true. Honestly, since we're going to go into beauty tips, I just get out of the shower. I dab it under my eyes. You might ask yourself, how have you achieved this sort of silver fox look without the bags? It's Maxima. Yeah.
It's Maxima.
It's Maxima.
Yeah. Well, Maxima today is.
I think that's too far. Just eye bags. Yeah.
I mean, maybe we need to send you some more. You're probably running low.
My nipples are chapped. Yeah.
A few. Wow. Yep. Great podcast we hear. Great radio. But Maxima Racing Oils brings you Vernon Felton today from Canyon Bikes and this great podcast that is kind of turning into a shit show right now. But we're going to get there. This episode is brought to you by Maxima Racing Oils, a leader in high performance lubrications for over 4 decades. If you're into riding hard, racing fast, or just keeping your bike running smoothly, or polishing Vern's head, Maxima product line totally has you covered, from chain lubes and suspension fluids to cleaners and protectants. Their bike-specific line is built to perform. And, obviously, if you need to smell good and you polish up that head, you can. So, if you ever ridden in from Rock Shocks or SRAM, they already make the OEM and brake fluids and not components, but the stuff to make their components work great inside there, little oils. And just right now, if you use the code INSIDERMTB at MaximaUSA.com, you get yourself a discount. So, and maybe we should give some stuff away. We'll send some to you, Vern. We'll send some to our listeners, all the good stuff. But now that we've got the sponsor reads done, let's just get into it. I want to first kind of introduce you to people that don't know who exactly Vernon Felton is, and just make for sure that I'm right on this. So, basically, for 30 plus years, you've been in the bike industry. You've worked for brands like Bike Mag, Pinkbike, Outside, Specialized, Canyon, Pivot, Evil, Diamondback. I'm going to take a breath. There's so many here. Mountain Biker Mag, right? Is that probably the best? Okay. I'm sure I'm missing a few on the list, but pretty much everyone. So you've 30 plus years. You've been riding bikes for longer than that, I'm hoping. But you do look like you're about 31, 32. This is great looking young man. But now you preside at Canyon Bikes, and that we met before that, Specialized. Yep. And quickly, I feel like you're one of my better friends inside the cycling industry, and I've been trying to get you to come on the podcast, and I know it's been busy times and back and forth. So thank you for coming on today and stuff, and getting into this. And maybe what makes our relationship great is I really like to dig deep into stuff and just learn every aspect of it and pick your brain, because you have so much knowledge of the industry that any brand I feel that has you working there or contract you out in the past or whatever has a very valuable asset in someone like you. Can you talk a little bit about what made you get in just to what made you, I guess would say, in some aspects, decide to not make that much money as a editor in a bicycle mag, because there wasn't websites really back then, but yeah.
That is true. Yeah, I mean, I kind of came into it in a fluke. I've been riding bikes, seriously since like 13 or 14. I got a bike really late in the game, and then when I got on it, because my parents, we just didn't have the financial wherewithal for a bike. I know it sounds crazy, but it's true. I would seriously run after everyone on their BMX bikes. It's a little crazy, but totally true. When I was 13, I got my first bike. It was a road bike, and I just like immediately started doing centuries on it.
What? Hold on, right out of the gate?
Yeah. I went from being a little dirtbag, stoner punk rock kid to
doing centuries
and wanting to race the tour. This
was your head shaved at that time? Did you do it for aero?
I was, yeah. Well, I have a really bad kind of a blonde loose afro thing. It's not great. So for everyone, for the good of the world, I shave it. And so like I got in a road, and then all my friends were mountain biking. This is mid 80s, and I got my first mountain bike in like 88, and it was just my passion, but I never thought I could do anything with it, like a career. Like I thought that's crazy, So I didn't even aim for it. I was in politics, and I worked in DC, Capitol Hill. I worked for the governor of California. And then I thought I would just take this lark, like a 1-year break, and work at a cycling magazine. And then, I wasn't wearing suits anymore, and I wasn't having protesters throw cat poop at me every Tuesday, which used to happen when I worked in San Francisco. That's a long story. But yeah, I got to show up at work in shorts and ride my bike and get paid for it and travel around the world. Like, the money sucked, let's be real, but the job was dope, right? Like, you get to meet, dude, I got to meet these people that I grew up kind of worshiping, Joe Breeze, Gary Fisher, Tom Ritchie, all the old timers from Marin County, as well as, oh my God, John Tomac, right? Like, and Greg Herbold and all these dudes, Earthquake Jake, and like all these people that I'd been reading about in magazines. Suddenly, like, you kind of know them, and it's pretty addictive, man. Like, yeah, I kind of went on vacation for a couple decades.
No way.
That's what I did. Money sucks, but the adventure was awesome.
All right, and then now you're stuck, Okay. You're just stuck in this bike industry, with me. You're just fucked, man. I don't know.
Well, getting that tattoo bike nerd on my neck probably wasn't the right call. If I wanted to transition to a different industry, but yeah, what are you gonna
do? From there, so I never knew you as the Vernon Felton editor, and I guess I met you now knowing a little bit more of the history. Is you came in at Specialized, so you made a pretty big transition at that moment from editor to a global marketing position.
Yeah.
Is pretty. I mean, okay, I think editors I kind of was a little bit of an editor in a sense, what I went to, and then I went more to commercial. So I would say it's like you went from writing journalism to writing for brands. And I think that's some of the best transition that makes the best marketing people, because you obviously are on the other side of the fence. But I would like that. I mean, for me, I have my reasons on why I like commercial more. It pays more. So, but so was that the similar reasoning for you to go to a brand like Specialized? Because you were at Pinkbike before that, and that's to me is the pinnacle of, I would say, one of the pinnacles of editorial and mountain biking. So yeah, talk a little bit about switching that I would say it's a life-changing career path a little bit.
Oh yeah, man, it absolutely is. I think that I never imagined I would do it, to be sure. I really, particularly at Bike Magazine, where, soup to nuts, you're creating, a new, package of stories every month. Like I love that creative aspect of things. And then, I started doing video at Bike, created like the Bible of bike test roundtables reels with Dan Barham and Seb Kemp. Um, and it just started really enjoying the creative side of it outside of writing. And, that just came an opportunity. I mean, to be honest, I got divorced and started looking at that bank account and realizing like I was, going to retire at roughly 120 years of age. And was like, I need to get a job, not that's like rich by other people's standards, but just one that I could afford to like maybe one day retire. And an opportunity came to work for Specialized, which kind of blew me away because I was generally known as being a pretty tough editor on bike brands. My goal wasn't to make the brands happy. My goal and my job was to, review the bikes and tell the stories that people wanted to hear and to be, objective about it. Bikes are expensive, man. Like people should know what they're getting. And it's not that a bike is good or bad. It's more nuanced than that. And it's like the goal is to really suss out what a bike is good at and what it sucks at and to tell that story. And so I never thought I would be on this end of things. But if you can find a brand that is willing to not just say that something is lighter and stiffer and red and fast, and, if they're really willing to talk about like what they were aiming to do with the bike and what are the trade-offs that they made, what makes this bike good, what, because everything is a trade-off in design. And if you could tell that authentic story, then you're not doing marketing bullshit. Then you're doing something that frankly honors the engineers and designers who created it for the first place. And the other part is you're telling the truth to consumers, and that matters because, man, if you sell them a load of shit, if you just sell a pack of lies, they're going to get on the bike and figure it out, and then they're not going to buy another bike from that brand. Like honestly, telling the truth isn't just good so you can sleep well at night. It's actually good business. So if I can find a brand that's willing to do that, then that's a brand I want to work for. And it's been cool to be able to create videos, to be able to create press kits, websites, that kind of stuff. Like it's not actually that different. It's less different than I thought it was going to be. I'm still ultimately just trying to dig deep in with the engineers and designers to say, what were you trying to do? And what makes this thing badass? And approach it more from, I tend to approach marketing more from a journalistic perspective. So that hopefully my stuff doesn't just sound like some bullshit tagline that, gets trotted out by every
brand.
Dishwasher.
Yeah, I mean, it seems okay. So I'm at 7 years into cycling, 10, something like that. But man, when you came to Specialized and maybe the timeline here is that I feel like bikes are just getting crazy changes every couple of years, and it almost makes a job and a person in your position to be able to write a story about that. Unlike, hey, we got this new seat post that does one thing. It's like we got 16 new things that change this bike and make it so much faster, better, climb, everything like that, and it's evolving so fast. Do you see it that way too? Is it just like these last couple of years just
that's the good stuff, right? I think that I think about how boring it would have been to write about bike technology from 1940 to like 1990. Like if you look like the early Gary Fishers are like, oh my God, the seat tube flares at the bottom bracket junction, right? Like that was mind blowing. There was one different shape and one tube on the frame. Otherwise, you're basically buying the same bike from everyone. Like, who wants to write about that? Like there's not a lot to write about because there's not a lot of story, right? Because that market had kind of like stalled out. I mean, mountain bikes had kind of stalled out due to like technological constraints. And what we have now, right, is like, we're constantly advancing, the industry as a whole is constantly advancing, whether, it's hydroforming or something cool with aluminum. Granted, aluminum is maybe a bit mature, but carbon is constantly, you're finding ways to optimize that. And if it's not carbon, then you're looking at e-bikes and suddenly it's like, well, they're heavy and they're clunky. It's like, well, okay, we're going to just constantly work on revising battery fuel cell technology. They're going to get lighter. The motors get more powerful. They get smaller. Like, yeah, every couple of years, you really have a monumental story to tell, which is cool because otherwise you're like, we made it red again. You should buy it, and not send your kid to college. Man, I'd much rather be in a place where I can tell a real story because we're really making the bikes dramatically better every generation. Yeah, it's cool. I mean, maybe that seems chaotic to listeners. I don't know. But from my end of things, like we get to work in Willy Wonka's factory and like the Oompa Loompas are creating dope things like every couple of days. Sorry to refer to everyone in the bike industry, all the engineers as Oompa Loompas, but that's actually a secret.
Wow.
They really are.
Typical journalist.
The Oompa Loompa folks.
Yeah.
Well, but they went after the movie, they all got in the bike industry.
Yeah, well, they needed a job somewhere, right?
Yeah.
It is hard to almost buy this bike and be like, this is going to be my bike for a few years. And it's like the next year, some other brand makes something that you're like, shit, man, like I need that extra watts or whatever you want to think in your mind, And
I'll tell you, dude, I never feel, and there's going to be people who are going to get angry when I say this, but like I see these ads for like classic mountain bikes and I'm like, and I'm a classic guy. Like I didn't say
old
classic,
stuff.
I said classic, right? I like old cars. I like old guns. I like a lot of old stuff, but mountain bikes, like
who would want to ride an old mountain bike?
Yeah. They look cool from a distance, right? But then you get on one and you're like, oh man, it's like the suspension is like, I could be like, oh, this bike from 99 is dope. But the suspension basically had Crayola crayons in it, right? Like, these elastomers they're horrible. Like geometry changes. Just try to ride a bike from 10 or 15 years ago. And you're like, oh my God, what were we doing back then? So yeah, the bikes do legitimately get better. Now, having said that, do your listeners have to go out and buy something to enjoy themselves? No. Right? You can ride the hooptiest ass bike.
You can ride gravel. It's okay. We get it.
Oh man, don't even get me going there. And I do like the gravel. I like the road for that matter. Oh, you're gonna be like that, aren't you? Okay. Yes. But seriously, man, you could ride a hoopty clapped out bike and have a great time. If the trail is good and your mind is right, the ride is good, right? Like you don't have to have the most expensive thing or the newest thing to have a good time. But boy,
it does help.
It is dope. It is fun. And I guess we live in this blessed time where you can go down to Trader Joe's and get imported cheese from Italy, and you can walk down the street and there's a good taqueria, even if you're in Hawaii. I don't know how any of this works, but on the same breath, dude, there are amazing, cool bikes coming out every year. And if you can live in that world and partake of it in some way, yeah, man, I mean, why be a monk and abstain from it all? It's great. Hop in. The water's good, man. It's fun. Seriously.
Sold. Sweet. Yeah. Just take my credit card now, it's
like I said, it's not like you have to. You still have a good time on an old bike, but I'm just saying the new stuff is dope.
It is. There's a reason to upgrade now, and I don't know if before I got super lucky to get in when dropper C posts were coming in hot, and I'm still admit that when I remember in the beginning, just people riding around with the Allen wrenches and getting out and dropping their seat. And I was like, man, dude, just get us dropper seat post. But and just think how far that's gone now. It's wireless, you had the specialized one there for a little bit that would castrate you. And then
we were so stoked. Dude, I wrote like 5 articles back in the day about like bring back the height right. You know what a height right is, right?
No, what is that?
Okay. Thank you. And I'm going to get old.
It's the ratio right.
Back in the day, Austin, there's a thing called a height right. Yeah. It was basically a dropper post that wasn't. It was a spring that like mounted to your frame, and the shaft.
It's called a shock.
Typical C post. Don't get all weird when I say the word shaft. At any rate, you would open up the quick release on your bike because that was the dope thing. Quick release for your C post, right? Not an Allen bolt, quick release. And you sit down and the spring would compress and it would drop your saddle like 2 to 3 inches. I think Joe Breeze and one other individual, I'm spacing on his name, they created this back in like 85 or 84. And it was the go-to dope accessory on your bike. But then like they went away, and I'm sure someone could Google this, Wikipedia. Height right, HITE-RITE. Any rate, I was like, I was that guy who was like, hey guys, I got to drop my saddle for every descent, because descending with my saddle, like, through my body and up into my throat is just a bad idea, right? Like, it's a horrible way to ride a bike. So I was always that guy who was like, I don't mind. I'm going to slam my saddle. When the first gravity droppers came out, as crude as they were, it's like, that's a brilliant idea. And of course, yeah, like, so then you dealt with like 3 position posts, or posts that stick, or posts that explode, or posts that are, like, ensure that you don't have as many kids as you thought you were going to have. Like, yeah, man.
Or just doesn't work. That's the worst.
Like 240 millimeters of electronically controlled posts. Oh my God. How cool is that?
Yeah. I mean, so the Vernon from 1998 ever thought that we would be full electronic, full dropper post, full everything? I mean, what we are now is, it's crazy what a bike does, I feel like.
Heck yeah, dude. The amount of sophistication. I mean, bikes are insane. There's no other field like this. I was reading the thing in Popular Mechanics. They're talking to an F1.
It is like F1 in a sense, how much it's changed. Like,
oh yeah. And they were asking him, like, what's the state of the art industry? And he said, and they're expecting, like, I don't know, the aerospace. And he goes, bikes. And they're like, the F1 guy, like, are you serious? He's like, yeah, because he goes, with a bike, like, the human motor is super weak. It's a couple horsepower. The pistons are lopsided. It just works like crap. Gets tired, has bad days, gets sad. Okay, all these things make you a less than ideal engine. And yet, we want the bike to be super burly strong. Like, we want it to weigh as little as an exhaust off a motorcycle, but we want it to have 6 or 8 inches of travel. Like, you start ticking off all the boxes on what a bike has to do, and you realize that it is always designed, a high performance mountain bike or road bike is designed on the cutting edge. It is right there on the margin of how light it can be, and yet how strong it needs to be to survive the kind of crazy shit we do on them. And it's like, there's nothing else like that. You go into cars and it's like, oh man, we'll just throw a bunch more pig iron on that thing and it won't break. They don't care about the weight, right? They're not having to balance variables the way that we do in the bike industry. And that is part of the reason why, yeah, bikes are expensive. There's no 2 ways around that, but part of it is because, like, man, these things they're built on the bleeding edge.
Was there like a reason why it sparked around that time that just really made everything change? It just, did people in racing want that, or was it just like some guy in his garage was like, you know what, I'm going to use carbon and now everything's going to be sick? I mean, what made it seem to spark so hard? Do you know that, or is there?
Well, I mean, you've got material revolutions, right? Everything was steel, and don't get me wrong, steel is a really cool material and has its assets. But then, you had Cannondale and Klein building stuff out of aluminum in the mid 80s. Then everyone moved to aluminum, and yeah, you could do pretty amazing things with aluminum in terms of radically dropping the weight on the frames. And then you have aluminum as a material, then you have all these different ways to butt it. Then you have things like scandium, this pixie dust that allowed you to reduce wall thickness further. Then you got to hydroforming in the early 2000s, right, where you're running a hydraulic fluid in to create these incredible tube shapes that could allow you to have super thin walls, but have incredible strength. That was massive. And then you had carbon, and carbon had been around forever, right? There are brands like Vitus and Elan that were making carbon road bikes in the early 80s, but they were basically glue and screw, right? Round tubes with adhesive bonding into aluminum lugs, and that wasn't going to cut it for mountain biking. But once you started getting that technology into mountain biking, suddenly you're able to, get frames down, to less than they were with, a lightweight aluminum or steel frame, and yet you're talking 5 or 6 inches of travel. It was mind blowing. But there were stumbles, right? The first carbon frames were typically not as durable as they needed to be, and the carbon manufacturing processes were crude. So you have material sciences advancing, you have manufacturing techniques advancing, and all these things, when you add them together, just start leading to these exponential leaps in product innovation, which is amazing. But you will get to a point where it matures and it kind of stalls out. And I think we kind of hit that, honestly, with push MTBs, push mountain bikes, which is, I guess, what people are calling. I mean, what's a goddamn good word for a bike with
analog?
All the names are lame. Analog. I don't know what to say, dude. Mountain bikes.
The bikes without a motor.
Bikes without a motor. Yeah, I think that like you look now and it feels like a lot of the innovation, frankly, is around e-bikes. And I'm not saying they're inherently better than, bikes without motors, and like whatever you like to ride, that's great. But there's no doubt that when you look at e-bikes, like, the early ones were like really clunky and really awkward, and the weight distribution is wrong, and the motors are huge and loud, and like you had this huge opportunity again to not only innovate and refine the frame, but now you're talking about refining the battery technology, the motor technology. There's just so much more going on, so that those bikes are they're still in their early phase of sort of technological evolution. And that's why on e-bikes, every generation, holy crap.
Yeah, it's hard to buy, but then not, I don't know. That's a whole other topic.
With every generation.
Yeah.
It's mind-blowing. Yeah. And I think that's a cool thing. At least it is for the consumer.
So do you think that COVID helped or not ruined or stopped or slowed or messed up or anything like that along the lines the bike industry, cycling industry? Because at one point it did spur all this money and people into it, but and it did come at the right time, innovation, and they're making such sick bikes and stuff like that. But did it slow down this like great progress, or we sped it up too quick and now we got to pause it? Like, where's your feeling on that for the bike industry, and COVID and what it did for it?
Well, we'll start with the good, which is a weird adjective to associate with COVID, but like there was like a good side of it, which is to say a lot of people who'd stopped riding bikes because they got caught up in everything you were mentioning at the top, right? Their kids' soccer games and karate and all the stuff that you need to do because you love your kids and you want them to have a childhood that's not like, a sensory deprivation tank. You start doing all that stuff and you stop riding, right? Like there's just not enough time in the day. And so, I mean, talking millions of people kind of fell out of love with something that was dear to them. And COVID gave people an opportunity. It's like, well, you can either bake another loaf of sourdough, or you can go do that thing that you used to love that felt like flying. And a lot of people started doing it again. And that's badass. And I can't see anything wrong with that. And if we look at the participation numbers for mountain biking, they are still really high. There are more people mountain biking today than there were before COVID. And so that's the COVID effect, right? Like it got people back in the sport, and it got a lot of people to just rediscover the sport at a place where like the product again is like so dramatically better than it was 10 or 15 years whenever they stopped riding. So you got a lot of people riding. That's good. The bad side of things is like, it's like someone going to Golden Corral and closing the whole place down and eating the entire like salad bar and the fried chicken division all at once, right? Like too many bikes were purchased all at once. The supply chains went crazy. Companies had to order bikes years and years in advance. And that led to this massive glut of bikes on the market, which is not good for the bike company. It's kind of rad for the consumer because there have been a lot of really good bikes now on sale for like 30 to 40% for a couple years. Like if you're a consumer, I mean, yeah, bikes have gotten pricey, but like, man, there are a lot of bikes that are half off. Again, if you work at a bike company, that is not good news. If you're listening to this podcast and you're just a swinging dick out there who likes riding bikes, it's kind of awesome. If you missed that somehow, man, like wake up and smell the coffee, homie, because those deals they eventually will dry up as the inventory levels return to a normal, sane position. You're going to see those discounts decrease, and that should happen in the next year and a half to 2 years. At least that's what everyone's praying for, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So do you think that certain genres would have got as popular? I kind of wonder that of
gravel probably got bigger than it would have, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, gravel was already starting to boom when COVID hit. And then people were like, I should ride a bike. What's gravel? So that certainly got a plus. I think e-bikes without a doubt, because they were so slow to be adopted in the United States. E-bikes had already gone bonkers in Europe right from the get-go. But in the US, people are like, nah, that's cheating. You're trying to have fun on the weekend. You can't do that with the motor. That's cheating at fun. So it
Which
was
seems
slow
kind
in
of
the US.
funny that it would not take off in the U.S. that way because U.S. people are lazier, I feel like, than Euros.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, we are as
So-
a country. My God, you ever walked into a Walmart or Costco? Yep. Did I just spend a bunch of people? I did. I don't care. Take a look around, man. Are we the fittest, fastest, strongest nation on earth, America? I don't think so, man. No. Uh,
We
but
got
having
John
said that,
Tomac, man. That's messed up. That is
it's
messed
messed up,
up.
but it's true.
We got Christopher Blevins. Come on, man.
Well, yeah, no, we can produce athletes, but Lord, I mean, look, we make diabetes real good. We can crank that out all day long. Look, the interesting thing with electric mountain bikes is that you know the U.S. is typically, and I'm going to sound really jingoistic here, but the U.S. is typically the leader on bike design.
Yeah.
Whether we talk like where did gravel start? It starts in the U.S. Where did mountain bikes start? Well, people have been riding bikes off road forever, sure.
But
The mountain bike as a sport really emerged from the United States in the late 70s, right? Road bikes that weren't like necessarily all cramped down, like race rockets that only made sense if you weighed 140 pounds and were racing the tour and you're under
Tom
the age of
Pitcock is
24.
your name,
Like,
yeah.
First road bikes that like normal people could ride and ride fast, that's out of the US too. We look at bikes like the Specialized Roubaix, so like a lot of innovation, Americans are willing to shake things up and have something simply and ride it, even if it's odd, even if it cuts against the grain, because it's inherently better.
Yeah.
And yet when it came to mountain bikes, we're just not mountain bikes, I should say. We're like, no, we're not going to do that. Like, what? I can ride twice as far on my lunch break. Don't care. It's cheating. It's for the weak and infirm. It's just diapers. It's adult diapers for cyclists. Like and that's, I think, goes back to like our country's Puritan founding, right? Like it was like, it was all about suffering and dunking witches in a cold bath to see if they could swim or float. Well, it's like,
What is this black magic you have here?
that pure pleasure is somehow inherently sinful. And e-bikes are like, hey, you no longer have to suffer to do this thing of ours. And for a lot of people, that's threatening. And I mean, I get it. Like I still love to suffer. I like getting on a bike and doing it all on my own. But I also, I think in Europe, people understood that, well, one, not everyone wanted to do that. And also Europe doesn't benefit from having a ton of single track that you can climb. So I'll take this one last dimension out there. When I did a launch for Specialized in Croatia on the Levo, it was the first time I'd ridden in that part of Europe. And it was like, oh, there's great descents, single track descents, but you have to connect a ton of crappy fire road to get to them.
Yeah.
And then the light went on for me. I was like, if I lived here, I would ride an e-mountain bike every day.
Yeah.
In the States where like I get to climb technical single track every day, and that's just life. An e-bike was less viable to me. I didn't want it as much. But if you live somewhere where you basically, you either shuttle yourself to get to good trails or you just suffer, an e-mountain bike makes a lot of sense. So,
yeah.
But the U.S. is starting to catch up. People are starting to realize that you can, how hard you work on the bike is still dependent on you. You don't have to put the thing in boost mode.
Yeah. And I think it's another, I told people for a long time that it was this other pleasure of mountain biking in a sense. Like, it's like, I wanted it in my arsenal. I still kept my other bikes. I didn't use it to really, I mean, it has in a sense really replaced my enduro bike a lot, but that's just because I live near very steep and hard to climb stuff. And like, I want more laps just like you or me. Right. Like, so I see that a lot of people have not just, have their regular analog or whatever it is that they ride typically, but they also have that mountain bike as another bike in their arsenal to go and ride, deciding if they ride it the most or the less is, up to them. But yeah, it's, I love them. So.
Yeah, I don't think, and 100%, I don't think it needs to be all or nothing. That, like, I think that's the other thing is that people fear once they try it, it's like they're never going to go back to their non-motorized bike. It's like, that's up to you, right? Like, yes. You're a grown up. You get to do whatever you want with the bikes that you have. I guess the way I look at it is like, I think it would be a pretty boring life if someone ate hamburgers every single day.
It depends. Was it In-N-Out Burger or, It depends who's making the burger here, you know? I mean,
could you seriously eat a hamburger 3 times a
no,
day,
you're
7
right.
days a week, right? Like, no
Well, I
matter how
could
good
chop
a
it up,
hamburger
make it
is,
into
I was like,
something else, you know?
it's something else. And I think that's the cool thing about e-bikes, right? Like, there's
Yeah.
days where an e-bike is the right tool for me. It's like, if I only have an hour, it's like an hour on a mountain bike is just getting warmed up for me. I'm not going far enough. It's like, it's not satisfying. But on an e-bike with that hour, I can go twice as far. And suddenly it actually feels like it was 100% worth busting out that lunch lap, because the lunch lap is now actually a legitimately great ride.
Yeah.
And, again, you can vary how hard you want to work. I think people think these things just do the pedaling for you. They don't have throttles, man. Not the class 1 bikes that are legal on trails. Right?
Yeah.
Like you got the power, you can use it wisely. You don't have to let the bike do it all for you. Or you can buy a lightweight, like an SL bike, that's never going to, quadruple your pedaling power. You can get something that's got less.
And you get
power.
murdered by your friends though, who have the full powered, and I can't do that. You know?
That's a whole nother topic. The SL
I mean,
bikes,
that is
full power bikes. Yeah.
So, I mean, you've had this argument before a little bit, but I personally believe that racing helps push certain categories forward. You feel a little bit different on that.
Can.
I'll get you to conform and understand, but here's my points to it: is
So
that you will conform, or I will make you. Is that gravel racing has benefited largely due to the racing and like lifetime pumping the amount of money that they have into it. I feel like to racing and things like that is that it's made it where you guys have had to develop more for it because your riders want that and you're pushing that. I mean, you guys are sending multiple race support and things like that. So it has pumped a lot into making that, which that's a whole other thing, but is and do you feel that way? Like is a little bit of, because of, let's say Lifetime has made basically gravel what it is today in a sense. I would say
that's where we're gonna have to start.
Well, I mean, but I would say okay, we'll take it from the top. Is that I feel if there wasn't Lifetime in gravel, would we have this like whole gravel expansion in the industry as much? Like. No, yes. I mean,
I wasn't sure if you were still trying to convert me. Can I talk?
You're converted. I know you are.
Look, man, gravel was doing its own damn thing before all the big race series got to it. Because gravel was the antidote to, the world tour and road cycling being doped up in some people's eyes and overly regimented and the whole 9 yards. Gravel was like, you know what, we're going to get out, we're riding 700 seal wheels, but it's more about adventure and unplugging. And that was already going, and it was going strong for, like a good decade before racing got to it. Now, does racing have benefits? Can it revitalize something or make it grow in cool ways? Absolutely. You're right. Like, gravel bikes, a lot of people glamorize the whole bike packing thing, which is cool. I think that's rad. But that's not for everybody. And some people want to just, invariably, like someone gets that bike and then eventually they're going to try to race a friend and drop them. They start thinking how they can get more aero, drop all the bags. They start going, right? Like this is the inevitable course of like bikes. And I think it's like the cool thing about racing is you're right. Like it does lead to evolution of the product. It means that there's a greater variety of gravel bikes out there now, and which I think is cool. It also means that like there were people who like the gravel riding wasn't competitive enough, right? Like they wanted to draft somebody
for 300 miles or some shit.
They're like,
on a dirt road. It's like a jackhammer.
I don't get it all times, but I think racing has been good for gravel. In terms of making the bikes more diverse and you're right, growing more attention to it. I think that, ideally, like you just, as long as we, don't lose sight of the fact that like some people want their gravel experience to not be about trophies. They want it to be about going into the unknown, exploring and pushing their own boundaries. And as long as we have both, I think that's great. I mean, in the same way that like surfing isn't all about like, competitions. There are people who are super hardcore surfers and it's a lifestyle and they'll never want to go to, they feel like competitions are exactly sort of the wrong thing for surfing. And I think, there are people like that who are super serious and awesome riders, and like competition means nothing to them. But I think that competition also helps us make better products and is like an injection of, of fresh blood into the sport. Yeah, absolutely. So.
All right, so you agree everything with me. I get it. So,
oh, you're so full of shit. I think I just brought you closer to me.
I mean, I don't think so. It's okay. Look, I accept you with open arms for who you are. So,
I think you just call me special, dude.
Well, you take it how you want. I mean, gravel is great for the sport. People are going to take this so wrong, and then they do for me is that I have no desire to ride gravel.
You know what I think gravel is? I think gravel is like the Viagra for fire roads.
Stop it!
No, hold up.
No.
Like, I will do everything in my power. If I'm on a mountain bike, I will do everything in my power to avoid a fire road. I hate fire roads, and I guess that's a very privileged thing to say, but like, so what, right? Like, I like single track. A fire road on a mountain bike is like, I am bored to death, and I might as well be.
Are we talking about going up it or down it, or I guess flat if you're in Kansas? But
sure, going down it is also a waste of like opportunity and fun.
Yeah.
All right, dude. No, I don't like fire roads, man. It's like, I might as well be on a goddamn freeway or in a shopping center or something. But on a gravel bike, it's sort of like
it's twice as sketchy.
Yeah, it's a little spicy, which is kind of suddenly it's not like boring and tame. It's a little spicy, but it's also it's if you look at it as mountain biking, then no, it's still not awesome. But if you're coming from it from the perspective of like, I want to be on a drop bar bike, I like the speed, I like the weight, I like the handling, but I really don't want people throwing cans of beer at me and screaming homophobic slurs out the window. Then you get on a gravel bike, you have none
or Trainer Road. And do it in your garage.
Road riding is a trainer. Oh my God, you're horrible, man. No, like a trainer is. No. If you're stuck in Antarctica and you want to ride a bike,
come on, you cannot tell me drop bars, some bigger tires, handles that great on a dirt road when you're going mock chicken down that thing. I'm sorry, but it's spicy.
But I think it's a heck of a lot. Well, we're not comparing it to mountain bikes. If you're going to say,
where you have control of the bike.
If you're asking what is the superior off-road vehicle in technical terrain, that's not a contest. It's a mountain bike, right? That's all there is to it. But if you're asking, there are a lot of riders who just honestly don't feel safe on roads, particularly in America.
Yeah, I would agree.
And like getting on a gravel bike gives you kind of a road bike experience, but out in nature. You're away from broken glass and smog and people being nasty.
Depending where you live.
Yeah, it's kind of rad. Like, I'll go on a road ride, even though I'm not on my gravel bike. I wind up gravel riding because I get kind of like, I don't want to be on the road, frankly. I'd rather be in nature. I'd rather be on dirt. And a gravel bike just kind of, lets you do both. I get some people like, but they suck off road. It's like, yeah, well, ride a mountain bike then. I get you.
I mean, just get a hardtail. At that point, I feel like a hardtail serves all those needs, and you might be a little less bloody.
Well, you're not entirely wrong. I mean, it's you could certainly argue that like some gravel bikes are just becoming like
hardtails,
bar versions of 29ers from like 2010. Like that's been said, and it's not entirely inaccurate.
Yeah,
but
well, do we? I mean, that's a whole just like segment that you could dive into, and I don't want to go too deep into the gravel stuff as much as I know you would because you love that sport. But
I like bikes, dude. I like if it's not a recumbent or a unicycle, I'm all about it. And I'm that's just it's got two wheels and a chain. It's dope.
And to segment on that is 32 the new issue with the, I don't even know if issues is the new something with the industry. Is just, I see you smile. I'm not trying to, Canyon is coming out with 32 next week. I mean, I'm just wanting to get that out on the podcast. That's why we have you on. The only reason we have you on, so you can just spill the beans. But 32, this is, I mean, I don't just, how close is that freaking, that wheel is going to be getting here? I mean, how long are these bikes going to be? I'm just a lot of in my head there, is this was this, I wasn't around for the 29 change, really. I came in when 29s are great. So was that the
Dude,
you're laughing.
15 years. There's 15 years of a dark cold winter on 29.
I've heard. I was really confused when people really hated 29s. I was like, "What do you mean this bike's fucking great? What are we talking about?"
And they did get great, but it took a long time.
But is this 32 going to be an issue or a 15-year low, or what are we talking here?
I love how you're only phrasing it. Is it the new herpes?
Is it the new
gonorrhea issue?
I don't know. I'm asking.
Well, first of all, I don't think any of us know like what exactly it's going to be. All we can say, right, is if you're going to races, you're going to your bike, you're seeing obviously, prototype frames are in development. You've seen them.
They raced it at Road Cup supposedly.
Yep. It's like clearly it's going to be a thing. And more to the point, you can see the number of tire manufacturers who are making stuff like already out there out of the closet with the fact that they're making the tires. All of that suggests that it's going to move more quickly than 29, right? Because in 29, like a lot of people forget, like we did the first article at Bike Magazine on 29 because one of our writers, Mike Ferrantino, was good friends with Gary Fisher, and Gary was riding a 29er back in 99. And so like, he started, like they started developing this stuff at Gary Fisher Bicycles subsidiary Trek in the early 2000s. And the problem was,
were they selling it at that time or just riding it?
No, they're
selling really? So you could just buy it.
The problem was there are hardly any wheel sets. There was basically one tire, the WTB Nanoraptor for a long time, right? So you had a tire that didn't have good traction. You had, when you only have one manufacturer building something, you miss all the benefits of a competitive marketplace. Yeah. The brilliant thing about having competitors is they force you to become better. You learn from the competition if you're doing your job well.
Just want to confirm a German company saying capitalism is great. I just want to.
At some things, capitalism is awesome, right? Like when it comes,
I'm messing with you, bro.
No, but when it comes to like making better products, capitalism is the way to go, right? Like it truly is, and it's like. You had only a few companies like Trek and Niner were building 29ers, and that wasn't enough. There weren't enough brands experimenting with geometry, and that was a giant part of it. And it obviously took a long time for the suspension manufacturers and the tire manufacturers to get on board. So you had inferior products bolted onto bikes with poor geometries. And it took a long time for enough brands to get in and demand better product and to figure out the geometry for it to mature and stop being goofy. I mean, in my mind, the first good 29er was the Santa Cruz Tall Boy. And when you rode that, it was like, oh my God, I finally see the benefits here.
How many years later did that come out?
Way better. It carries speed better. And this bike feels sorted and awesome. And, but once someone cracks a geometry code, it happens. Is that going to happen with 32-inch wheels more quickly? I think it will, because you can already see, you can read the tea leaves. Like it will be something that happens. Will the geometry be dialed right out of the gate? Man, your guess is as good as mine. But it's going to be something. The degree to the kind of something it's going to be and how many brands will be on it, I don't know. But, when people like clearly at this point in time where we're seeing it is in cross-country racing, and it makes sense in that medium, I think. Particularly as courses get more technical. Yeah. Obviously, a bigger wheel is going to be less awesome for quick directional changes, and is going to generally be less awesome on acceleration because of greater rotational weight. All things held equal, bigger wheel, more material. But wheel manufacturers improve 29-inch wheels. Not like we're sitting around complaining about that anymore. So that could change as well. But more to the point, if cross-country courses are starting to look like legit trail riding, and they are, then you can imagine that a wheel that saves you energy over the course of a really rough track might be an asset if that acceleration isn't crap right off the get-go, because you also need to be able to rocket those things up and wind them up to speed quickly. I don't know the answer, dude. I'm curious. I have no idea.
I mean,
but it's gonna be something, I'm sure.
You guys got Vanderpool on it already?
I'm sorry?
You got Vanderpool on it already, just testing it. He's, the Watt King, so tall. It just seems like a Vanderpool move, like.
Who knows?
Yeah, wow. As good as nah, he's not sharing any info with us, you guys. Interview's over. Not. It's worthless,
Of course I'm not sharing the information.
But it's obviously you feeling is that the mistakes they probably made in the beginning with 29er, that we're not going to make those as much mistakes with the 32 on the taking so long to adapt to it. And,
I think
brands.
I think that there's, when we went to 29, it's worth mentioning that like 26 had been around since 76 or 77. Like there was so much inertia, so much resistance to even trying something new. Like 26 was working just fine. No one ever questioned it. And I think that we've obviously with 29 and 27.5, like we've gone through so many permutations. At a certain point, I think the industry's like, okay, we're willing to experiment now. Like they've gone through their college phase. They've experimented. They're willing to try a lot of different things. And I do think I think the one thing that suggests that it's going to move more quickly, at least where I've seen it and, online is XC applications, is the number of tire manufacturers that are already, on board. Like that suggests that if tire manufacturers are on board, then some wheel manufacturers are clearly on board. Like we didn't have, it took ages for that to happen for 29. So
that probably made it super hard too to spec a bike with it, right? You're only
100%. I think that was the big problem. Like Gary Fisher really believes in 29, but those bikes were kind of handicapped by less than stellar suspension and tires, right? Like, and those were a lot of them were hardtails. And Jesus, if your suspension, if your fork and your tires are crap, your hardtail experience is horrible, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. And I mean, how much? Now we have such great components that cross over at a certain point. Like you can kind of make a little bit of a shitty geo. I hate to say it, and then you have just some great suspension that might help pull out of that, or you have you have some of these key components that will help make that bike perform a little bit better than maybe I don't know how maybe the best way to put it, but it's like if you suck at building bikes, you could probably just spec it with some great stuff on there and it might help it a little bit more than it would be in the past, like
it'll help it a little bit more. I mean, obviously bad geo is bad geo, but maybe, having learned, look, we made that transition from going to a much smaller wheel to a bigger one and considering what that did to rake and trail. And, like we learned something there from going smaller to bigger. I think it would be naive to think the bike industry wouldn't apply some of those learnings to another wheel size.
Yeah. And
made the leap once. So
do you think so? Like I have this weird thing. I know e-bikes, I feel like personally have kind of hit this. Oh, it is changing rapidly since COVID, I would say, right? I mean, I feel like going up to COVID, it wasn't as moving as fast as it is now, but I feel like maybe it's kind of hit a little bit of personally feels like it's gotten to a little bit of a stall where we're not worried about making them ride as great anymore to more like, how can we give this thing a fucking Hemi in it? And it just rips up the hill. I feel like they've gotten enough power at this point. I want it to handle more like my enduro bike through sections and carve and not, some issues with weight, right? As much as to me, it's like, but maybe this is just the moment where it's like, oh, we're just pushing power at this point because we can't make it lighter, I guess. But
I think like power is something that is, one, you're selling to a demographic that's heavily male. And I don't know a whole lot of guys that I'm going to get that Mustang and I'm definitely doing the V6, right? Like more power.
If you live in California, they probably are, but let's get real. So like, gas prices.
So you've got the idea that like people just more sounds somehow, it sounds better to people, whether it's true or not. And then I think the other thing is like, you can look at that on a spec sheet and go, oh my God, 105 Newton meters of torque versus 85 better. That's a much easier thing to sell than ride quality, which is this, sort of esoteric, amorphous quality that you're trying to describe. And yet, I would argue, and I think you're kind of touching on it, right? Like, it's not like at some level, if the bike it's great if they have power, I guess, but if it feels like you're, trying to piggyback on a Sherman tank, is that really mountain biking? Is that really fun? I don't think so. But like, so I mean, but this gets into that thing of like, am I saying that consumers are wrong for wanting a ton of power? I can't say that, right? Maybe that's what someone wants. Maybe that's their style of riding. I personally, I mean, I think I like full power bikes, but I also like the SL bikes that aren't as popular. I don't mind, but I'm not riding with a bunch of friends on e-bikes. I'm not riding gravel roads. Like, so oftentimes I can ride a lightweight bike, like our Spectral on Fly, which is like akin to a Levo SL, for example, or, a repeater, or Trek Fuel XE. I can keep naming these, I guess. But the point is, I like the fact that it feels like my analog bike.
Yeah.
And that I'm not looking for a massive power boost, but that's me. Like I said, I don't mind suffering like a dog. Like, I like the way the bikes ride. Now, we're in this world where we're saying, do we go full power or do we go light, full power and it rockets you up the climb, but maybe it doesn't feel super nimble, playful, or do I go lightweight and playful? I mean, I think, the tea leaves, I think anyone can read them. At some point, we won't have to make those trade-offs, right? At some point, you're going to get to more power and much lighter weight. That's really a question of getting the battery fuel cell technology, improving that, because the bulk of your weight on an e-bike is the battery. It's not the motor. And the frames are remarkably light if they're done well. Already, if we're talking about carbon structures. So really, it's a question of getting that battery weight down. And once you do that, then it's not going to be a place where you have to choose one or the other. And then I think that's going to be a world that's going to be a lot more compelling for a lot of riders.
But I mean, at this point, getting that weight, I feel like so far away, unless you're getting an entire car manufacturer to switch its whole form of lithium ions out. I don't know. There's some other type of,
you're not wrong, man. Hey, I'm not like hiding a secret that we have something that's going to it's going to be a featherweight battery tomorrow.
32 that's going to solve it, but
it's going to take time. But I mean, if we look at how janky mountain bikes were 8 years ago, 10 years ago versus where they are today, it's remarkable. And obviously, if you're willing to sacrifice range, okay, if you're willing to have a smaller battery, have less watt hours, and move back towards something like 600 or 630 watt hour battery, what was kind of your standard 5 or 6 years ago, you could lop 4 or 5 pounds off that battery and off that bike right out of the gate. Yeah. And that's what some brands like Orbea was always doing. I think some really kind of clever bike aikido, right? Like they had a Shimano EP8 motor with I think a 400 watt hour battery or something along those lines. Right away. And they had like an SL bike at about the same time as Specialized. And they did it using totally conventional parts. That was really brilliant on their part, I think. And I think that, you could see DJI. There's so many brands that are innovating. And like I said, if you can go to a smaller battery and then maybe sell a range extender, so that people have something for those big days where they want to pull a 50 or 60 mile off-road ride on their e-mountain bike. Yeah, that's probably a really cool thing too. So I don't know. I mean, e-mountain bikes, again, I think what's cool is that they're evolving so quickly, and maybe that seems a little scary and freakish, but what it really does mean is the bikes are getting dramatically better. Yeah. That's pretty rad.
I mean, I know that there was some projects at some brands it's all about how to basically you buy one bike, and in the sense you detach the motor, the battery, and everything comes out, and the bike's able to ride just as well. Do you think, is that maybe before we get to lighter battery technology? Yeah. Not to,
I mean, I know that floats some people's boats. I think LaPierre was doing it really early with like an E-Zesty, and obviously
really
do that with one of the transitions, right? Yeah, for some people that's cool. And if you could only afford one bike, and I mean, that's actually like a totally reasonable thing to say, then I can see why someone might want that for sure. I think that for me, one, because I never sell things, because I told you I'm like my own personal kleptomaniac of my own bikes. I'd rather have something that was optimized. I'd rather have like an e-bike that like no concessions. It's optimized to be run with the motor and battery. And then I'd rather have my just totally pure.
Hemi, just
Yeah. I'd like my totally pure non-motorized bike, right? Like I
Yeah.
want bikes to be, I don't think sometimes a spork is cool in theory,
when
right?
you're
But
on
sometimes I'd
the
really
moon.
prefer to have a spoon, and sometimes I want a fork instead of a spork. You know what I mean? That's kind of how I view it. That's just my personal opinion.
That is a good point. That I didn't think of it. Some, do you like eating with spork all the time?
That's kind of where I'm at. But if you can only, if you only had money for one utensil, spork could be pretty sweet. So I ain't dogging that. I hear that.
I mean, I get where your point is on that. Yeah, it's. I'm kind of wondering a little bit what if, unless they're calling Tesla or someone over there to get batteries figured out at this point, what is next? That's my worry.
Well, I think that I think it's going to take time, to be sure. I think that you are seeing. I mean, we could look at what Canyon.
Oh, hey, what's
we
that?
could look at what Cannondale
Oh,
did.
hey, what's coming up?
No. With the Moterra SL, right? Like they basically just put a small battery in that thing, and people are like, it's so light. It's like, yeah, it's like
You cut half the weight. Yeah.
It's a half the size of the battery, and it's half the weight. Like, yeah, you can cut the weight and have a full power bike. You're just going to have less range, right? But I think that if people are like, particularly with a good range extender, if you're willing to go that route, and someone's like, you don't need a massive battery for a 2-hour ride, and if that's like what they're doing on the bike, then yeah, and then they could just bolt on a range extender and their water bottle cage on big days for the weekend. Yeah, that's cool too. Yeah, but I mean, dude, I remember when I started at Mountain Biker Magazine, free ride bikes had 4 inches of travel. 4 inches, dude. Someone's like, is he? No, I'm not smoking crack. I don't do that. 4 inches. That was free ride. Okay. And these bikes are so bad at pedaling. I remember we were testing a Gary Fisher Level Betty, and you had to turn the rebound damper, right? Little red knob all the way, max it out so that it would just pack up and the suspension would stop working. And that would stop the bike from, feeling like you were, a monkey humping a basketball, right? Because that's what it was like if you didn't have the suspension maxed out, the rebound maxed. And they had a dual crown fork, dude. A dual crown 4-inch travel fork. What? Our World Cup cross country bikes, which weigh less than like my first good road racing bike,
Weigh as much as your fork on a back.
Outperform it. My point is, everyone thought there's no way that free ride bikes were ever going to become something you could pedal. That's the beauty of evolution, right? Like e-bikes now today, yeah, they might seem a little web-footed to people, too heavy, too clunky. They're not going to stay that way. And more to the point, again, if we just look at the past few years, they've been constantly moving and they've been getting radically better every generation. So the things that we see as unassailable, obstacles, they won't be. They'll fall. Yeah. The bikes will become just legitimately rad.
I just want it now while I'm still in my prime of riding, and I can use it to its full potential. And I'm not just riding a fire road with this fucking monster of a bike that's badass. But I just, the biggest thing is a braking bump with the washboard, for me.
Isn't that the thing though? Like, look, I mean, I guess I would say this, right? Like, how long you been riding mountain bikes? I mean, obviously you've been riding moto.
6 weeks. 6 weeks of riding a mountain bike.
So let's say you go back to way back in the day, 6 weeks ago. Like, no, but seriously, like, your first mountain bike is clearly not as good as the one that you're riding today.
Oh,
no, had an
for
awesome
sure.
time, right?
Yeah,
like
you're right.
Because there are times though, I think, like I have these buddies that I grew up mountain biking with as teenagers, and we get together and drink beer and eat roasted meat once a year, and I'll go like, hey, let's go for a ride, and they're like, okay, and then they ride the bikes, and they're like, oh my God, why did we have to grow up in a period of rigid steel bikes, right? These things, doing 50 miles per hour down like repack on a rigid steel bike is gnarly. And they're like, this is amazing. And it is. And part of me does feel like, man, we lost our youth to a period where we could have had this really cool stuff. But on the other hand, we had an awesome time on the janky bikes. So
that's why you probably gravitate more towards gravel, because you're just so used to that. It brings you home to the hardness of a shitty bike. I don't know.
I see where you're going there. Oh, you're so. Am I allowed to say that you're full of shit on your own podcast?
100%. I'm cool with that. Like, I already know I am, so it's
So
okay.
full of shit.
It's okay. My listeners don't care. Um, all you'd be surprised. Somehow we've reached 2.1 million impressions this year. I don't,
Yeah,
or no,
look
it's
at
actually
you.
2.5 million impressions. But they love me. I guess it's what it is. You know what, Vernon? Maybe we'll just make you a co-host. You'll just contradict everything I say. Oh well, look at how great, and you'll be like, well, actually, sir. My you know my wonder is also too, and we've talked about this. Is like, are we through the dark times? And we talked about this before. Is like, are we through the dark times of where the industry's at and what it's gone through with COVID a little bit now coming out? Or do we still have a few more years of this getting punched in the gut a little bit and selling of bikes and all that type of stuff?
I think we still have a little ways to go. I think, unfortunately, I think that we've got a good year, 2 years before this thing levels out, which is not great news from the standpoint of there are a lot of really good companies that are on the ropes, and that legitimately sucks. YT is a competitor of ours, but it still was not awesome hearing the news for those guys. It's not good for them. They were cool. First of all the guys at YT I met I've liked their bikes. And moreover, you got customers who are like, wait a second, do I have support for my bike? That's a shitty feeling. And every time you see a company struggling, and there's been a lot of good ones in the news that have either, gone belly up or, are restructuring, and that's a drag. I think we got a couple more years of that because there's still a lot of inventory out there. And, at the end of the day, during those COVID years, man, we sold 2 and 3. I say I mean the industry sold 2 to 3 times as many mountain bikes as they had in the past, right? And that just means there are a lot of people. We kind of sold the futures bikes as sort of like a Terminator thing with a time loop. Like, we sold bikes from 8 years into the future. We sold them that year. And that's what we're dealing with now, right? There are a lot of consumers who are like, I bought my bike during COVID. I'm cool. If there's an upside for the industry, it's that the participation rate for mountain biking is still really high. If I go out and if I go back and
how do you find like that number though on the participation rate?
Well, you've
like,
got obviously the trade organization, BPSA, Bicycle Products Suppliers Association, and other organizations actually track. It's a series of really
like how much service is going on or racing or
they look at racing. They also just so they interview
Strava,
hundreds of thousands of people and find out what their participation rate is for mountain biking. But I mean, anecdotally, I cruised through Bellingham in just one example. I mean, it's packed. People are all over Galbraith. If I go down in Southern California, it's packed, right? Like, I see tons of people riding. It doesn't
I would
really
agree
matter
with you.
where I'm at. So that makes me feel good for the mountain bike industry, because at the end of the day, if that many people are riding and they're spreading the love and it's growing, it means that, the sport's not on the ropes. It's just, the industry and the suppliers, we've got too much inventory. But people keep riding. That means they're going to wear through the stuff eventually. And when they come time to, buy again, there'll be brands. I think the big brands are going to sail through this no problem. I think it's the smaller mid-tier brands that have more to lose. And that to me is I wish that weren't the case, to be sure. I think that sucks. But
do we see a reshaping? Like, I know through COVID was this, the big, well, 2, I guess you would say, out of the 3 was, we're going to buy all these dealerships and retails and kind of reshape a little bit. I know they've hit a little bit of a money problem for that, but is the reshaping still kind of going on? Are we going to see this where, the big ones are, and I don't think a lot of people do know that, like, Trek and Specialized went on this buying program. We're just buying all our retailers and we're going to own up. Did it go on in Europe as well? Or is it just a United States type of thing?
I think to a lesser extent, but it's been happening here too. I mean, Trek was on this even earlier than Specialized, and it certainly preceded COVID. I think a lot of it comes down to, there's a couple of different reasons. One, I think, there's a need for flagship stores if you're a premium brand and you have a really big technological story. If you're really delivering bikes, that are and gear and what have you that are like, I mean, like Trek and Specialized, right? Like they invest a ton in their shoes and their helmets. Like it's not just bikes for those guys. And just trying to have, for those guys, trying to have, they don't feel like they get their whole story told if it's 30% of the floor space and a tiny portion of the wall. And for them, it's in their best interest to have a shop that really tells the entire brand story. Most brands aren't capable of that because they don't have that much stuff. But the other end of it, obviously, is that, you know, people have, in COVID accelerated this, people have become incredibly comfortable buying things online. And, you know, a lot of these, you know, companies are looking to have essentially, you know, a hybrid model where, you know, you buy online and it gets shipped to a store. And if they have like a flagship store in every community, then people can buy online and know that the product's going to wind up at a shop and they can still get a hand.
Yeah, if you break it, go get support, something
on his arms, and that there's always someone there to fix it. Like the hybrid model makes a lot of sense. It makes sense to have a brick and mortar presence where people can demo the bike. So I think that acquisition from Trek and Specialized, I think part of that was also due to the business model for selling bikes in the United States changing. Yeah. And I mean, is that good or bad? You know, as with most things, it's, I think, a dual-sided blade, to be sure.
Yeah. The reshaping of what I don't even know what you'd call it, but the reshaping of cycling sales in America, or how you get your bike, or I don't even know what you would call it, but is changing dramatic. Like,
yeah. And again, COVID like got people on board with that. People are buying cars online, right? Like
it seems crazy. Yeah. Why would you? Yeah.
It sounds nuts to me. But on the other hand, if the company delivers to your door, they do it quickly. If they have a really good exchange, like a return program, I mean, Zappos kind of got people buying, you know, 20 pair of shoes. I'm not that person, clearly, but like, you know, like Zappos like changed the shoe market with this kind of stuff. You know, Amazon went, you know, bonkers during COVID. And I think, you know, I think there are a lot of people who, or obviously, you know, that's what Canyon does. We're, you know, the first direct to consumer bike company. And we've been doing well with it in the United States too. There are a lot of people who want that convenience, or maybe they live in a rural area where they're not, you know, they're not in Boulder. They're not somewhere with a ton of really great bike shops. I will say that one benefit, particularly for those, you know, brands that are shops that are, you know, Trek Specialized dealers, and they're kind of that hybrid model, is that those bike shops may not then have to dedicate so much of their floor space to carrying the entire universe of bikes from that brand, right? Because there's no doubt that some bike shops felt like they're being extorted by some brands to carry way too many bikes.
100%. Or shoved down your throat, right?
Yeah. So like, you know, if the idea is like you can try something in the shop, you know, maybe you don't have to carry 8 versions of Enduro. You can only carry 2 or 3. Someone likes the ride quality one, they want to up spec, they could buy it online and have it sent to the bike shop. That's kind of cool for the consumer. It's less of a burden for the shop owner as well. So, you know, but bike shops have been a bit of an endangered species now for like 20 years. They've been on the decline.
Yeah.
We keep losing them every year, and that sucks. We need bike shops. They are the absolute, you know, they're the foundation of cycling communities. And I don't see a world without brick and mortar bike shops is a sad place. And I know that sounds crazy. I work for a DTC brand, but like, you know, Roman Arnold, the guy who started this, he was a bike shop owner. And it wasn't his job, and it wasn't his purpose or intent to put bike shops out of business. And I mean, to that end, we're growing our network of associated service providers, bike shops that service Canyon bikes, because we need them. We need shops. Every community needs bike shops. I think the question is, so on that, your point of like change, evolution, reformation, I think bike shops are definitely got to be changing up their game and not only be a source of bikes. Obviously repairs are always going to be the lifeblood of revenue, but also, you know, they need to be a place where the group rides come out of. They have to be a place with workshops.
It is kind of becoming more community.
Yeah.
And maybe 100%. What it started as, and it's more community.
And I think they have to do that. Otherwise, people are going to buy they're going to buy their next KMC chain off of Amazon tonight, right? Like they're going to buy their Crane Brothers stamp pedal off Amazon tomorrow, right? Like it's not just about the DTC bike brands, is that, you know, there are, you know, how many online cycling retailers are there. There's a ton of them. And if a bike shop isn't able to provide that real sense of community, I'm not saying that's easy. But that's where they have to go, that in order to remain a viable enterprise.
Or if Fox just keeps messing up on the Float X2, you're going to have to get it serviced somewhere.
Oh, you are so bad.
No, I do see in LA, it's becoming more and more popular where it's, and it started with a lot of people that were whatever, servicing suspension. Mm-hmm. And now those shops have turned into, they don't sell bikes, they just repair stuff. And it's because there is certain levels of, I mean, I'm pretty handy myself on working on things, but I see a need for when there's moments when I'm like, fuck, I don't know how to fix this or press bearings in or something. I need to go to someone that is a specialist at that. But it's like, I don't even trust going to a regular retailer because it's usually 17 or 18-year-old kid there. And I think I got this. Let me pull the manual out. Well, fuck, I could get the manual out and do it myself. I want to go to this guy that was a mechanic, on the World Tour team or something. But I see a lot of that kind of coming, and probably that'll help with partnerships for Canyon and stuff like that. So,
I think it's key. I think, the tough thing for bike shops is they have a transient workforce, right? It's hard to maintain. They generally don't make enough money to pay people well enough to stay and become gurus. Hopefully you live in a town where you have some kind of old timer gurus or some really skilled people. I've been fortunate to live in communities like that where, if I'm in Bellingham, I can drop it off at Fanatic. Those guys are actually every bike shop in Bellingham is kind of amazing, but like Fanatic is, those guys are insanely good, right? Like that's exactly the reason I go to them constantly. There's times where I'm just like, I really don't feel like doing the 5th disc brake bleed for my bike this month, and I'm in
charging your SRAM battery for your wireless. I get it. You live the privileged life, Vernon.
Is that where we're gonna go?
So high up on the totem pole. I just buy new SRAM batteries. I don't even charge them. Type guy,
What is that? What do they call that rhetorical device where you accuse people of the thing that you're guilty of? What is that called?
Remember our GX conversation and Ram Shimano in Colorado?
You're talking to a guy who likes SLX, me. You're a guy who's like, what? There's something lesser than XX1? Please, man.
Hey, I like
mignon. I'm eating out of a can of pork and beans with the sport.
This conversation for people that are coming is we did a photo shoot together. I can't even remember how we got on the.
We're talking about, because we're geeks, we're talking about different component groups and like mixing and matching and making the best thing. And
I'm a SRAM person. I like SRAM components.
You're SRAM, and so I was like, well, and you were like, well, why do you like Shimano? I'm like, well, I like them both. It depends on the group.
Yeah.
And so I was like, for example, SLX and XT are like outstandingly good for the money, even Diori for that matter. And I'm like, versus GX and SRAM, and you go, wait, what? And I go, dude, GX. And you're like, wait, SRAM makes something lower than XO? I was like, oh my God.
Well, at the time, to be fair, I mean, they only probably made 12 speed in XXO or XO. It wasn't even out,
You got caviar taste. Homie.
Every day we were waking up, I was drinking my coffee with the pinky out with him, and he was like, "Oh wow, you're almost hitting me in the face with it. It's so big." I
think you said something like, "Boy, have you bled my brakes?" I'm like, Austin, I hired you for the shoot, dude. I ain't bleeding your brakes.
No. Let's act. So Vernon, the mastermind, he is rented a truck that had dual exhaust out the back, and after 2 blown up front carbon wheels,
how am I getting blamed?
We thought that the trail was doing this. I was pretty for sure, and no. I knew it was the exhaust, and I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right.
Vernon driving the Hemi, it was a Dodge Ram, just, he had the Hemi in it. He was just really gunning it, and it was getting them tailpipes hot. And for some reason, it was my wheel that was over this tailpipe every single fucking time.
Well, here's the interesting thing, though, right? Like, it wasn't like you were right in the draft. I mean, I melted a derailleur pulley when I was 17 doing that. And I was like, well, I'm never going to be that dumb to do that again. I'll just grow up to do it to a carbon wheel. But the thing was, the wheels were like 5 inches above the exhaust, maybe more. But we were going over, not Monitor Pass. What's that big pass in Colorado out by Salida?
Monarch was where we were, but
Monarch Crest. There you are. We're going up that. And yeah, we'd get to the top and be like, that's weird. One bike always seems to have a blown tire.
And it was mine. That's what was fucked up. Why was it mine? I guess it was good that it wasn't the photo shoot bikes, but what the fuck, man?
Yeah.
2 wheels later.
That was embarrassing. The worst part, though, there's 4 of us in the car. And it was like 3 times before anyone was like, wait a second.
Well, we figured it out.
God hate us, or is there a mechanical reason for this?
Yeah. I just figured I was shredding the trail so hard.
There you go, dude.
To be fair, the athletes weren't as good as me on the downhill, so maybe that's what it was. I was showing off a little bit, pulling these big wheelies, KOMing it. But
seems entirely feasible and plausible.
Yeah, exactly. It was so Vernon, the smart man he was, quickly changed us to an aluminum wheel. I don't even remember. We figured it out and we just stopped blowing them. Right? I can't.
Yeah, we just reduced our jackassery by about 15%, and that solved it.
But
pretty bad.
Yes, Vernon is a Shimano lover, and
I like them both.
And I was a SRAM lover at the time, and I still do. But
well, I think that here's the thing I don't get. Right, there are people who are like, I'm a specialized person. I'm a Santa Cruz person. I'm a Shimano. I'm a SRAM, whatever. And I have a lot of respect for a lot of companies, but I don't know any company that, like, if you look at every product in the line, they knock it out of the park every time. Like, I think that's impossible. So I tend to think for me, it's always, and maybe this is coming from my background as a test editor. I'm always just trying to find the products in the lineup that I think really outperform equivalently priced products. Right. And so there's certain SRAM stuff that I really love, and there's certain, Shimano things that I really dig. Same thing on suspension. Some things I really like from Fox, some things I really like from RockShox. So, I mean, I think it's like, but that whole like hook, line, and sinker, I'm this brand guy. Like, I'm not like that with anything, man. Whether like, in any world, I think the challenge is to find out where that company is strong, and that changes over time. But like, there's some stuff that SRAM's a great innovation company. They take a massive risk, right? And I mean, there's so many things that we are all running because SRAM was like willing to go, no more derailleurs. No one was asking for that.
Yeah.
But it like going to one by radically changed frame design, right? Because we no longer had to design around derailleur suddenly. And that was a big part of 29ers getting better, is that we could reduce rear centers because we didn't have to make the chainstays a mile long because we had that damn front derailleur trying to eat the tire. Get rid of the front derailleur, suddenly frame design got way better. And thank you, SRAM, right? Like, one by is dope. it's really good. And that wasn't going to happen without those guys. They're risk takers as a brand. And the flip side is sometimes, they've had reliability issues on some things because they're willing to take risk. Yeah. Shimano, on the other hand, has had less reliability issues over time, but they also have not innovated at the same rate or brought quite as many innovations to market in recent years as SRAM. And so they kind of balance each other out. Like, Shimano quality is really fantastic. I'm not saying the SRAM quality is not good, but I'm saying that, like, people hold Shimano and say, this is the level it's got to be at. And that is, that's, again, the free market kicking ass and makes SRAM go, okay, this is where we have to be. On the same hand, people are like, SRAM's doing really cool things with their, like, Shimano didn't want to go to one by for a long time.
Yeah.
But, like, they didn't have a choice, because once you ran one by, you're like, no, this is how it should be. Yeah. So that competition in the market is great. If anything, how cool would it be to have viable third and fourth brand component manufacturers? Can you imagine, right? Like, competition is good.
Yeah. They are. I love to see the way that it helps push a lot of components, bike brands, everything forward. I do really like that about this industry. Coming from motocross, where it was very controlled by certain brands and innovation was slow to get there. It took actually it was Japanese really controlled the way that all motorcycles were produced, and then the Austrians came in with KTM and Husky, gas. Obviously, now they're financial issue, but they did help push. I mean, there were so many of us begging for just black rims on the bike. Just give me some fucking black rims on bikes. And then, they did it first. It came with it OEM spec, and it took a while. Now we have hydraulic clutches. We had so much that came through. Cycling, you guys have a very strong wanting, and maybe, and I've only been in a very short time, and I don't know. I mean, it does sound like Gary Fisher pushed stuff forward with the 29er and a lot of other things, but it seems like a lot of brands do push a lot forward. It's like, if you're not having a person sitting in a dark room, locked away, as you say, or something, trying to figure out what is next, what is coming out in 5 years. If you don't have that at your brand, you're dead. Like, I don't even know what you are at that point.
Oh God. Yeah. Yeah. No, you've got to, you have to entertain, you have to constantly be willing to say that even though something was impossible last year, is it possible this year? You have to be willing to, to never accept things just because we've done them this way before. Like, the job is it's so easy to get caught up thinking you can't do something differently than you did it yesterday. And I think that the cool part of the job is that you're asked, okay, don't look at yesterday's component. Ask, what do people want to do with bikes? And then ask yourself, does suspension, the way it's configured, help you achieve that? Is a derailleur system the right system on drivetrains because we've used derailleurs for so long? Or because, we just haven't figured out the next, the evolution of the next way to drive the bike forward, right?
I mean, that does make me wonder, because SRAM doesn't make a frame or bike. Were they just sitting there and that it wasn't an executive meeting? They're throwing darts at the board. Let's just fucking get rid of this. I would like to know that story. Was it someone sitting there and they were talking to a bike brand and they were like, hey, what would make your bike better?
You wonder. I mean, I remember writing an article on 29 versus, at the time 27.5 was just picking up speed. And, a number of bike brands are like, hey, we can't, you can't print this, but there's this thing coming along. Like, theoretically, if we got rid of the derailleur and maybe someone's working on that, and all you had to do is start digging a little deep and figure out who would do that. And there's really only one brand that was going to do that. It's a good question. Like, did they talk to the bike manufacturers first? Did they just say, hey, screw this, we hate front derailleurs, they're kind of a pain in the ass to build. They never really functioned that great. Like, they suck to adjust, and they got crappier to adjust as we added more and more gears and made chains thinner and thinner. Like, it just got harder and harder to make them work well. And it's, I don't know. I would love to know the motivation too, but whatever the motivation was, it was the right one. It's so much better. And I do think, the bike industry and competition is what we need. And I guess that's the thing that kind of sometimes bums me out when you going back to that COVID question. Like, we need brands. We need brands pushing. We need upstarts going, hey, here's a different way to make carbon, right? Like, I mean, if we look at the industry today, it's populated by brands that were upstarts. Trek was just, father, son in a friggin' barn in Wisconsin. Specialized was, a guy going, he was selling tires and bike parts and going, I could go to Japan and get this custom mountain bike built for a third of the cost of what these guys in Marin County are doing. The guys in Marin County are like, no one wants to do this thing, but we think it's awesome. It's all these iconoclasts and hippies and malcontents pushing one another that created all this cool stuff that we're all riding today and we kind of take for granted. But it's, I hate to say it, but part of you has to kind of be willing to stamp all over tradition if it makes the ride better, right? Like, I think that's the thing. I was going back on classic mountain bikes. Yeah, they look kind of neat, but do they ride better? The answer is frankly no. And I think we should be doing everything we can to make bikes ride better, assuming that they're also easy to work on, that they're durable. I mean, there are other variables in addition to ride quality that dictate whether something is good or crap. So, I mean, if we just are always optimizing for ride quality and we build bikes that are a pain in the ass to live with, hard to work on, fragile, well, that's not great, right? It's got to do everything. But that's what makes it so hard is you have all these traits that you're aiming for that are pulling away from one another, and you somehow have to corral them all into the same room and make them play nice. But when you do, man, the bikes are rad.
It is. And this, we can get close to wrapping it up here, but it seems like, I don't know the full Trek story, but with Specialized, these are some of these first generational owners, and they are setting to retire or move on, expire, whatever it is. Will this second generation, nothing, Vernon, you're young, you're going to make it. It's great. But I mean, Canyon is still on their first generation owner. And I watch a lot of history, and when a second generation comes in and their thought process and the way they want to run their company look at Apple, for example, right? Like Tim Cook hasn't maybe made the best of decisions for them, and they're in a never what Steve Jobs would want, I would say, position. So I'm wondering is does this keep going when we have a second generation come in of an ownership, or however it works? You're seeing a little bit of a changing of guard at some of these brands. I know some stories of a brand starts with an S, and that they have had issue with leadership and changes and how some things work there, and had to make changes back. So does the industry of cycling still keep in these advancements if we do lose our titans that are for pushing these brands? I guess it's an I don't know for me. I mean, to you too, I'm sure, right? Like,
I think it, I don't know either, but I do think it comes down to like the difference between like monarchy, like, because it's the monarchy question, right? Like, you have some leader who's great in battle. He's got a fantastic jawline. He seems smart. He solves problems. Awesome. And then you get 3 generations down and just handing the title over to somebody who doesn't, and then all those traits are gone. They have, weak chins. They can't decide anything, and I think the same thing is, obviously companies aren't handed down exactly that way. But what I'm trying to say is like leadership has to pass into the hands into the hands of people who have the same kind of that constant striving for excellence, the willingness to break a hell. I'm going to try
to be the best.
Stays here, but they have to have that because that's the problem with Apple, right? Like Jobs was by everyone's account a really horrible person to work with.
He's a piece of shit,
right? He was just brutal and cruel, but he drove his teams to build products that were unparalleled. And he had the vision to not sit down and say, we make this today, so we have to make it tomorrow. He had the vision to go, let's try to make something that no one's ever said they wanted, but I know deep down there's a need for this. If you can have that kind of mindset and carry that over from one leadership transition to the next, you're in safe hands. The challenge is finding that successor who has that radical vision, who has that drive, and can manage correctly. And that is always the challenge. And I think that's why there are very few brands, and no matter what industry you're looking at, that really do survive unrivaled over the years, because it's hard. Those personalities are rare. Like the Mike Sinyards is Specialized. That guy's amazing, man. Like I remember working there and I'd be thinking, why aren't you retired? Because he's old. Okay. But that dude would walk into a room and he could spot a problem with the bike a mile away. He could spot a problem with marketing copy 2 miles away. The guy is sharp, and he was out still putting in his 80-mile, 100-mile rides on his bike constantly. The guy lives and breathes bikes. I know some people don't like him, but I got to say that guy, when you work with them, you realize why that company, one of the reasons that company is as successful as it is because his personality. And that's a hard thing to find a replacement for. There just aren't a lot of people like that. There are not a lot of Steve Jobs and Mike Sinyards out there,
I'm late to the game, but I feel that cycling is pushed forward because of a brand like Specialized willing to be like, fuck it, we're going to make the best e-bike, even if we don't see it, right? Or whatever it is, and it has made other brands like, oh shit, we got to go. I do wonder.
Agitator brands. Cannondale back in the 80s and 90s, those guys were insane before they got bought out. Like, those guys were coming up with crazy innovations. They made their own disc brake, dude, back in like 97. Hydraulic disc brake. No one was running disc brakes on bikes. They not only decided to spec it, they decided to build their own. Well, reliability was not awesome, but they went. My point is, they decided to build.
It's a SRAM guide brake. Is that what it is? Sorry.
These things were like, but it was like, and by the way, when I say they made it, I mean they literally made it. They didn't offshore it. They built it in Connecticut. Everything from their friggin' sandals to their bikes.
And they were like, it's so heavy, we have to cut off the other side of the fork to make it work? Or
no, man. Their bikes were ahead of the curve. They were like...
It's weird because I know Cannondale, everyone talks of it that way, but it's like what it is now is not that as much.
Yeah, because it stopped being, to your point about ownership, it stopped being a father-son organization, and it got sold out to investors because they decided to make motorcycles, and they bet the entire farm, and when they built motorcycles,
it was too heavy, shitty, it wasn't good. And
they decided to do everything again, make their own motor, their own exhaust. I mean, it was souped, and it was from start to scratch an entirely new vehicle. But like, you can't do that and not stumble, and they did. Yeah. And they were so over leveraged that they were forced to sell the bike business. The bike business was always profitable, but the point is this. They were an agitator brand, and you may not have liked what they did, but you had to admire their vision. And the fact that they pushed like that forced other brands to try to innovate as well. And that's what we need. Like, we need brands that are a little punk rock, that are willing to piss people off initially, because people don't like change, even consumers.
Yeah.
Why this new wheel size? Why do we need this? Dude, I was one of those guys. I don't need suspension on a bike. I can go 60 miles on a rigid bike. It's true, but it was dumb, right? Like, I hated everything, dude. Disc brakes, I don't need them. V brakes are plenty strong. Oh my God. Do you know how many stupid things I said over the course of my life? I mean, fortunately, about the time I hit 30, I just started realizing that I was kind of professional at being wrong about these things. And then I would just at least try.
So anytime Vernon is like thinking that way, I should be like, dude, opposite. He really thinks this stock is not going to work. Buy now.
Oh, dude. Yeah. I didn't think the internet was taking off. I didn't think.
Shut up. No way.
No, for real. Dude, I grew up in
works at an internet company now.
So I have a horrible track record with that stuff. However, I would say when it comes to bikes, the one thing I learned that as a journalist, it wasn't my job to poo-poo things. It's my job to actually investigate, ride them, and have an open mind, and then report on them. And that's in life, that attitude has served me well. And, that's what we need at bike brands. I'm not saying that I deliver that for Canyon. I'm just one of, thousands of people here, but that's the right attitude. And that's the kind of brand that I think you want to work at.
Yeah. I'm just worried a little bit about, I venture capitalism maybe overtaking the industry at certain points, or how we see the reshape of it, and how the brands will be here in the next 20 years as these titans do come to retirement, or I don't even know, expire, or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, it's interesting.
It is interesting.
Yeah.
It is interesting.
Yeah. I mean, so you've seen it obviously with Cannondale situation.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we'll see, especially right now. A lot of them are leveraged a lot of money into some stuff. So I guess we'll see, right?
Yeah, and I think you have to investors it would always behoove investors to recognize that the bike industry is not it's not an industry that has, linear accelerating growth, right? Like, it's got dips, it's cyclical. It is a niche segment, right? Like, there are barriers to entry to cycling. Bikes are expensive, and there's a reason and a lot of people don't like this thing that we like, which is being in pain and suffering in order to get the thrill, right? Like, there are things that limit people's participation in cycling. They don't make sense to me because I like all that stuff that I just, listed. But because of that, it means that if an investor is expecting like a 30% return year after year indefinitely, they're in the wrong business, right? This isn't selling a fake health insurance thing where you can scam the people and make unlimited profit. This is bikes. right? And there's going to be ups and downs. And I think that is the challenge for companies that have, that are really beholden to investors is, investors want to make their money back and they want to make it back every quarter. And the bike industry has never been an industry that can promise that decade after decade. And I think that's where some companies get in trouble. Yeah.
Well, we're here now, so we'll just suffer through it, and, But
you mean, are these dark, horrible times? Is bubonic plague? I don't know. Sun's out. I'm riding my bike. I think things are good, dude.
They are. Yeah. I don't know how to explain it. I guess because it was like the prime of my life during COVID and seeing how great it was and stuff. But I know cycling's in a unique, interesting spot. I don't think it's going away. I don't think whatever it is. We do have some great. You might not point it to it, but I think there's some great leadership guys like you at certain positions at brands that are pushing the sport forward, sport industry, however you want to say it. And for one, I might criticize like Lifetime, and I might criticize Warner Brothers a little bit here and there, but dude, the industry would not fucking be where it is if it wasn't for them. We need brands, companies, I don't even know how you would say that do that. And we do criticize companies like the Big Red S, but they have done immense things for this industry. And I for sure love it. I hope that all of them succeed through whatever a little bit of a slump we're in right now. So, and I want to see them on the other side. I need them. We all need them. So,
yeah, I think, dude, that's a remarkably mature perspective. And I think it's 100% on target, right? Like, I think we need the brands that we never even buy from, right? Like, I think we need, and I'll give one example. Grant Peterson is a product manager. He, back in the 80s and early 90s, and he led Bridgestone bikes. And the guy was really revolutionary. He seemed like a Luddite. He seemed like he was anti-technology, but he wasn't. He was just like, hey, road bikes they should feel good and ride well for everybody, and even for people who aren't in the pro peloton. And he had all these ideas, and eventually Bridgestone kind of went, the yen, the conversion rate went south, and Bridgestone went away. But he kept building bikes. Rivendell out of Walnut Creek, California, and he was promoting, like, again, you are faster if you're not in pain, right? If you can keep delivering power to the pedals because your body position is works for you, you're going to have a better time on the bike and you'll be faster. That's the very idea that eventually went into the Specialized Roubaix, right? And now if you look at like the bulk of road bikes being sold, the bulk of them, whether they're, Roubaix or Damanis or Canyon Indy races, they're like, most people are riding this kind of bike, that this total iconoclastic, grouchy guy who seemed like a crazy man in the desert eating honey and locust. Like, that's what almost everyone's riding. And Jesus, look at like our Aeroad, like the size of tires now, the volume on road bike tires is massive compared to what they were in the past. And why is that? Because like they're more comfortable. They actually have better traction. So like these crazy ideas, this is what I'm trying to get back to. Like, we need the brands that are saying things that we're like, I don't know what that dude, like, I didn't come into the party with them. That person oftentimes is onto something. And I think that, that's what we need in this industry is we need the small kooky brands. We need the big consistent brands. That's what makes this sport and what makes the product so damn good. So, man, I mean, I was saying, look, it's all sunshine. It's not. You're right. These are a little tough economic times, and I hope that brands can surf through it because we need them.
Yeah. That's all. We good. Vern, I appreciate you coming on the podcast. I know you're in Germany right now. For everyone listening, it is like 8, 9, 10 p.m. midnight there.
I gotta walk to the old city, get something to eat, and it's late at night here.
I do appreciate it. Glad we finally got you on, and more times to come. I mean, I would love for you to come on some more if you're down, maybe even co-host a little bit, talk some shit with me, just contradict everything I say. It goes here. You're like, no, it's the smartest person in the room. And so thank you everyone for listening. And you can, join us on YouTube. It's well, not join us, but listen to us on YouTube. We have on Spotify. We're also on Apple Podcast. And if you want, just go straight to insidermtb.com. That's where we upload everything. And don't forget to support Maxima. And go to maximausa.com. Use our code InsiderMTB to get a discount. And thank you all for listening. We'll see you next time.
Cheers.
This has been an Insider MTB production. Watch us on YouTube and follow us on Instagram